Before we begin, let me share what is the history of digital ethics. Before it was known as digital ethics, it was first called as computer ethics and information ethics. The reason for these changes is because of what it focuses at that time. When it was called computer ethics, it was more focused on machines, which made sense when they were big boxes at those times, but it started to lose its meaning since technology evolves as time passes. And it is the same with information ethics. At that time, it challenges to explain the role of information since it is not computed, and the examples are library and information science. Computer ethics was named by Walter Maynard, a professor at Bowling Green State University who teaches computer science. In 1976, he stated that it was still too early to provide a term for this word computer ethics. He observes that when the computer gets involved in moral difficulties, the problem tends to worsen and new ones may even emerge. Deborah Johnson, a philosopher at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, was also the one who first wrote a book about computer ethics. In the book, it stated that the ethical problems related to computers are not unique. Examples are problems with privacy, power, and property. Even though these issues are the same as usual, it also states that these problems occur at a larger scale because of computers. Deborah calls computer ethics as the new species of generic moral problems. Another philosopher at Dartmouth named James Moore defines two aspects of computer ethics. The first one is the analysis of the nature and problems related to the social impact of computers, and second, the formulation and justification of policies needed to manage computer technology. He stated that computer ethics involve the application of both philosophical and societal analysis. Donald Gottenborn, a professor at East Tennessee State University, offers a distinct perspective on computer ethics. He stated that ethics imply a professional ethic, which involve professional engagement and designing and developing systems of computers, which includes quality, concern for customers, professionalism, and concern for humanity at large. And finally, the father of digital ethics, Don Parker, due to his interest during the 1960s with ethical problems related to the newly emerging information technologies, he defines computer ethics as the application of ethical principles to the use of computer technology. He realized that many previous technology, the computer had both beneficial use and harmful abuse. Alright, let's talk about user-to-user services. This is also known as user-generated content, where individuals are able to create, share, and post their own content and let others also interact with it. This is used by most of the social media platforms we have today. User-generated content consists of different kinds of multimedia posted in different social media platforms, and this includes the news, entertainment, engagement, or even advertising. With contents like this, business ads are very successful in promoting since it is a low-cost production, and through various ways to create new content, they are able to provide a increase on their sales. Besides business, different users also are able to meet other individuals with the same interests as them, which creates a connection, and that connections can form into a community. In explicit incentives, this refers to the tangible rewards or benefits an individual can obtain when they participate in events. There are situations where events needs some requirements or tasks to be completed to be able to participate, and when an individual gets chosen, they could be rewarded through vouchers, discounts, or compensations. Let us now talk about the different types of user-generated content. We have blogs, where it is a journal-style text Websites are created by different communities which enables them to share or create information. Websites can contain memes, articles, artworks, audios, videos, or even reviews. There are also some video games that allows its players to create a fan-made content or mods. When it comes to advertisements, it is also included or considered when these contents are made by those who are not a official representative of the business. This can come from a post of a user, reviews, videos, or podcasts. There are a lot of free and trusted educational sites which can be a source for our reference for our research or in our assignments. And of course, user-generated content is intended also for photo and video sharing. Let us discuss the advantages and disadvantages. With user-generated content, we are able to personalize, post, share, and engage, and we are able to stay in touch with others. And it will help us not to be left out on what is new today, and it can also provide awareness on what is currently happening in different parts of the world. It is also very helpful in businesses since they are able to interact with their customers, providing information, and with different reviews, it can help us carefully decide on what to buy, especially when we're looking for products online. With the variety of content seen, we cannot avoid negative contents, including hate, scandals, or other types of bullying seen in different platforms. This could damage one's reputation or image and could even affect one's mental health. We should also be careful on the different news we encounter. Overall, user-generated content is the interaction that happens between users through different kinds of posts in different platforms we have today. There are different rules and regulations that are implemented in platforms. There are certain guidelines to be followed by users in exchange of the services provided by the platform. We often see this in signing up, where there is a checkbox at the very bottom saying I agree with the terms and conditions. It is similar to a contract that users must agree and follow to gain access to that specific app or website. So, why do we need to know more about this? Firstly, to prevent abuses. With the terms and conditions included, it will have the authority to remove accounts that commits these abuses. Some examples of abuses are infecting a website with malware, spamming, and committing acts of defamation. The next reason is to own your content. These terms and conditions will also address intellectual property and copyright. It will inform users that you are the owner of those contents and it is protected by the international copyright laws. The third one is to terminate accounts. This reason is related to the first reason because terminating or banning will be the consequence of these abusive accounts. We also have limitation to liability. Users are informed by this type of provision that the owner cannot be held liable for any material that contains mistakes or for the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of the information given for any purpose. A warranty disclaimer and liability limitation clause are frequently included in these terms and condition agreements. They try to limit the website owner's liability, especially in situations where errors are discovered in the content presented on the website, where the services isn't operational 100% of the time, or if a product you sell turns out to be defective. And lastly, setting the governing law. The terms and conditions published will also apply to jurisdictions from the law where the platform is originated. We should know that it is important to follow these rules to protect users and brands. It will help them to manage their accounts responsibly. And the outcome in implementing this is organization, security, and harmony in the community.
The growing concern in our time is our relationship with our devices and the software we install within them. But before that, let me read this extended definition of digital ethics for you. The main themes are the relationship between man and machine and the standards of a society shaped by digital technology. Regarding artificial intelligence, digital ethics asks, for example, to what extent decisions made by AI are traceable and to what extent humans can and should trust these decisions. In order for you to better grasp this definition, I'm going to give a concrete example later. But right now, it is crucial to understand that digital ethics is also referring to technological ethics. What that means is we are not only referring to the interactions within the digital world, but also our relationship with our devices, our phone, our computer, laptop, or whatever technology we might possess. Now, there's an abundance of studies about this subject, and most of the studies points to the fact that there's a correlation between how we use our technology and our mental health. And this is just one of the statistical evidence that shows the significant impact of digital change. Now, I'm not going to read this anymore. Pause the video if you want, because this is just one of the many studies that say the same thing. And I think every one of us knows that overuse in a particular thing has a detrimental effect. That's just obvious. And it just happens that what I am referring to is social media. Though the addiction varies among sexes, for males it's more on pornography and video games, but generally it's more on the mindless scrolling on social media. Now, the problem that I am seeing is whether these companies know the harmful effects of their applications on their users. And it poses the question, are they doing this deliberately? And are they violating any ethical standards? This will be a good transition to the next slide. Why is social media compelling? Firstly, they've spent millions of dollars to have this effect on people. And these applications are psychologically designed to catch our attention and to keep us engaged for an extensive amount of time. One of the psychological vulnerabilities that these companies exploit is the average man's desire for socialization. After all, it has been mentioned before and repeatedly pointed out that man is a social animal. In this sense, what they primarily mean is we rely on cooperation to survive and thrive. But taking this view from a different vantage point, we are also social animals in the sense that we are inclined towards interpersonal relationship. We like the feeling that someone is thinking about us. It makes us feel important. It makes us feel significant. It gives us a sense of meaning or superficial sense of meaning. And these platforms are good elicitors of those feelings. A good example of it would be the react or comment feature and the tag feature. You see, because whenever we get a reaction or comment on our post, it implies that someone is thinking about us, or at least our post. And in the tag feature, there's a facial recognition on who's the person in the picture, and you could easily tag that person. This also implies to that person that you're probably thinking about him. Believe it or not, that's enough to trigger dopamine release in our brain. And these tiny bits of reward are sufficient enough to keep us engaged. Deny it as much as you want, we are still to some degree reacting to our social environment. And with social media, it would seem that everyone is watching. We don't want to look dumb and sound stupid. And in the presumption that someone likes us or someone thinks we are humorous, so we keep posting and sharing shits and stuff, or someone thinks we are lovely or adorable, however you want to interpret that. But in actuality, it's just pitiful. This is one of the dopamine reward system that these companies utilize or exploit to make billions of dollars as a compensation for their investments. And they have been accused before several times that they are doing this willfully. Profit over well-being. There's another thing that Facebook did. So the color of the notification sign was ostensibly blue to match the color palette of the application and website. But the click rate was very low. They're not opening their notifications. And by simply changing the color to red, surprisingly, the click rate skyrocketed. Can we blame them for that? But that's just their job, to attract users for their software. Here's another thing that makes social media compelling. It is available always, especially if we want to entertain ourselves. And social media, for what it is, it helps people connect together, brings people closer, giving people a voice, and all of that bullshit. It has been rendered an entertainment device. You see, there's a feature in Facebook, and not just in Facebook, this is replicated by most platforms, and I think every one of us has been there before, where you would tap on a video and there would be an endless suggestions of short videos to watch. And it's very difficult to stop. I mean, how can you stop? It's one slide away from the next video, and the next video, and the next video. Spoiler alert, you will never stop. Unless reality decides to drag you back. Maybe you remember you have to do your homework, or maybe you burn the rice. Again. Anyways, to understand this phenomenon, let me tell you about the Skinner box, which was developed by the American psychologist B.F. Skinner. The Skinner box is a device used to objectively record an animal's behavior in a compressed time frame. And in a contemporary experiment, they placed pigeons inside these boxes. Now, there are buttons that the pigeon could easily peck, and there's a hole there, like a vending machine where they would press the button and pigeon pellets will pop out. The experiment goes like this. In the first box, the reward system is responding whenever the pigeons peck the button. They regularly receive rewards. On the other box, they modified it. At first, they set the reward system like the first box, but eventually they started to give the pigeon pellets at different intervals. Sometimes it won't, but most of the time it will. Guess how many times they peck? 2.5 pecks per second in 16 hours. They did this to another pigeon and deprived him more of pigeon pellets. But surprisingly, instead of being demotivated or discouraged because of the lack of reward, he compulsively pecked a whopping 87,000 times in just 14 hours. This is analogous to our non-stop scrolling through short videos. And if you don't like the video and it does not feel rewarding, swipe it down again. It's that easy. Just swipe it down until you find the rewarding video for you. Else, why are you even there in the first place? I mean, that's the whole point of their business model, to monopolize our attention. And speaking of attention, let's go to the next slide. Attention economy. This term was coined by Herbert Simon, an American political scientist. To give you a concept about this, in normal economy, the average person pay for the product or services in order for him to consume or use the product. In attention economy, they offer their services for free, but they profit by selling the consumer's attention to those who need their attention, to those who need eyeballs, click rates, aka advertisers or marketers. So remember, people, nothing in this world is free. Matter of fact, as Abdul Momin Rizwan Aman said, I don't really know this guy, but I've just looked for some quote in Google, but this line is proverbial, man. So let me just read this for you. There is nothing free in this world. Even the so-called free things bear cost in one way or the other. Yeah. Do you know what is the cost of your aimless scrolling or your frequent checking on your phone? Attention residue. Imagine you are performing a task. Say you are writing an essay. Then there's your phone at the table. While you are writing, your phone vibrates. A friend tagged you in a post. So you attend to it, react or reply to a comment or something, then you go to scrolling. Attention residue states that whenever we switch tasks, we cannot fully transfer our attention from task B to task A. Some of our attention is left in the previous tasks, meaning those that distract us would stay in our mind for some time. That is why it's so difficult to regain focus, and it will take roughly 18 to 23 minutes to fully immerse yourself in your essay. But with the constant shifting of attention, especially if there are more than one task, we are not really multitasking, we are rapidly switching contexts one after the other. And this is detrimental to our focus. So that's one of the costs of these free services. And I only have one question for all of you. Do you value your attention? And I thought of a maxim myself. Check this out. Where you invest your attention is what constitutes who you are. Yes, sir. Okay, so, anyways, next subtopic. This is a quote from Herbert Simon. What information consumes is the attention of its recipients. Hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. There really is an abundance of information from academic to entertainment, but we are more inclined towards the latter because on those parts of the webs, companies compete for our attention. Every click or tap is equal to money. Screen time is money. It's appalling how much information we are exposed to, and we think we are capable of retaining that much information. And that's the ironic part. There's a scarcity of information in the past, which is why the lower class remains illiterate. You know, before the printing press, they used to reproduce books by hand, and only the bourgeoisie or the elites have access to those books because they have the means and they can read. And having a personal library back then is a symbol of power. And this is the irony. We now have almost all the books inside our phones, and most people have a phone, yet most of us have been rendered stupid. And I'm not saying this as a mere conjecture. There really is a statistical decline since the emergence of smartphones. Now take note of this definition right here. Attention economy facilitates a marketplace where consumers agree to receive services in exchange for their attention. The key word here is agree. Now, will we agree to give up our attention, our life, our productivity? You know, this is like the commercials of supplementary drinks, medicines, or whatever, where they would flash, commercialize it, of course, and then there would be a disclaimer because there's a law for that. There's a law for that that you should not sell products that is not medically approved. Now they would sell this, commercialize this shit, and they would put the disclaimer at the end at a super fast rate.
Mahalagang paalala, ang CGF ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Yeah, that one. The reason that I am telling you this is because social media platforms have a disclaimer of their own before you use them. That they would probably use our data to make their services better, or that it would probably cause us to alter our behavior and probably lead to addiction. I don't know, man. Like you, I did not read the terms and agreements, and like the disclaimer in those commercials, it's barely noticeable, and we would highly likely dismiss it as nothing. One thing is certain though, social media has become one of the causes of addiction. And the next slide we go. Battling social media addiction. Now that there's a lot of studies that show that social media has detrimental effects, some people try to fight this, and one of them is Senator Josh Hawley. So what is the provision of SMART Act? This is quite a long read, so let me just summarize it for you. The SMART Act proposes that autoplay should be banned, though there are some exemptions, music perhaps. Infinite scrolls should also be banned. It also proposes that there should be a natural stopping point in news feeds and separate prompts to play videos. They also require the particular platform to alert users every 30 minutes that they've spent on their app. In addition, they would also give users the options to self-impose time limits. Sadly, this was not approved because we all know the politics, not only in US but almost everyone. Business usually comes first. Let me introduce you to Tristan Harris. He's a former Google engineer and he used to specialize in mind-to-device interaction. But after being promoted to work with Gmail inbox team, he realized that he is now affecting the behavior of millions of people. He saw the danger of what they are doing to users, so he became a whistleblower. He exposed these big companies and it also verifies what I have said earlier. And he's also my reference to that Facebook experiment. After Harris quit his job, he founded a non-profit organization called Time Well Spent. And he still goes with his warning about how far technology companies are going to try and hijack our minds. He also had a TED Talk if you want to check him out. Next slide. Who's really in control and who's really at fault? Remember the extended definition that I mentioned earlier? To what extent decisions made by AI are traceable and to what extent humans can and should trust these decisions. This strikes me as something. I remember the thought experiment that Manson put forward in his book, Everything is Fucked. This might deviate from what I have discussed, but it's technological ethics anyway. So in chapter 9, he talked about how AI is rapidly developing and how Garry Kasparov, the world's best chess player, was beaten by AI because AI operates in algorithm. Compared to a human who can only see 4 or 5 moves ahead, let's say an AI could instantaneously calculate what's the best possible counterattack and what's the best possible outcome of the game. This might be the best quality of AI. We don't have to do the computing. Autocorrect, that's AI. Media recommendation, also AI. Grammarly, navigation, facial and voice recognition. We could acknowledge the fact that we are gradually relying on AI because it makes life easier. Now imagine you have a self-driving car. You bought this self-driving car because the ad said it had a feature that prioritizes the driver's safety. Whenever the driver is going to steer to a dead end or a collision that could harm the driver, the AI that is programmed into the car would automatically take control to avoid injuring the driver. It's a self-driving car in the sense that it drives itself to prevent you from making mistakes that could harm yourself. Now we could all agree that this invention is convenient. Maybe vehicle accidents would be no more. Now you're in this self-driving car and you're running at 60 on the highway. Suddenly, a child ran across the street. You tried to steer away, but the AI calculated that the collision would highly likely kill you, and that the collision right in front of you is less of a threat. So, the child is dead, you got arrested, and let's get back to the question. Who's really at fault? But you get the thought, guys. Even if AI has a 99% success rate of doing its purpose, what if that 1% cost life? Should we dismiss those 1% as permissible errors? No? Think about this for a second. AI would probably develop far better judgment than us. Their understanding of good and evil would likely surpass our own. Because when it comes to moral questions, humanity has failed again and again. This is what I thought when I read the extended definition: how technology permeates our actions and decisions. Manson's insight to this is, he also referenced to Nietzsche, particularly this quote: "Man is a rope stretched between animal and the Superman, a rope over an abyss, a dangerous crossing, a dangerous wayfaring, a dangerous looking back, a dangerous trembling and halting." And by the way, he's not referring to Superman in the comics precisely, but a transcendent being or superior being. He also called it something greater. You get the point. We are the transition toward that. And Manson's interpretation of this line is that that's something greater. That's something that lies beyond good and evil is AI. Next slide.
And for the last part, we will be tackling on how digital ethics affect Filipino millennials and Gen Z. Children and young people are growing up in an increasingly digital age where technology pervades every aspect of their lives, from robotic toys to social media to the classroom and home. Artificial intelligence is a ubiquitous part of daily life. It's vital, therefore, that ethical guidelines protect them and ensure they get the best from this emerging technology. Digital technology is majorly synonymous with making our lives better and convenient, but nevertheless, there are negative sides to digital technology on young people, which include that it can be addicting and can even hurt our communication skills. With digital gadgets nearly permanently attached to people's hand, it is quite important to look at some of the ways it impacts the lives of young adults. For the positive impacts of digital technology, we have digital technology enhances learning. Digital technology has become integrated into the classroom and learning environment over the years in order to enhance the learning experience of willing person, and young people are no exception. And for my observation, technology improves learning engagement by assisting students in employing course material and education information better than memorizing fact, by allowing them to learn by doing. Technology also allows students to use devices that supports or help them in their research or assignment that they have to complete. Foster problem solving. Several digital technology, most notably games on devices, help improve and foster reasoning and problem solving skills, as a player must work independently to achieve a specific goal. The purpose of this chapter is to analyze and discuss the extent to which the use of digital technology offers learners opportunity to understand and appropriate mathematical knowledge. We focus on discussing several examples in which the use of digital technology provides distinct affordance for learners to represent, explore, and solve mathematical tasks. Looking for multiple ways to solve a task becomes a powerful strategy. And lastly, develop future technological leaders. Future lies in many of today's emerging technology, and in the years to come, technological skills will be more valuable. And now, the negative impacts of digital technology. It diminishes relationship and social skills. As young people use digital technologies more often, they are more apt to be virtually connected with family and friends rather than physically spending time together. They are more likely to text, chat on social media, or connect through online gaming than actually meeting them in person. Many studies and recent information have shown that the social skills that are being diminished by technology is when one uses smartphone more than interacting with with people in person. It truly affects social cues. Next is digital technology stimulates health issues. Excessive use of digital technologies can be harmful to the health of young adults and children alike. As the more they use it, the less physical activities they do. Technology can have a large impact on users' mental and physical health. Being overly connected can cause psychological issues. And lastly, digital technology reduces sleep quality. Young people who use social media before bed are more likely to not get enough sleep at night. From my observation, my uncle uses his phone every night when he cannot sleep para daw mapagod yung mata niya tapos tutulog niya lang daw. Pero pag ako, if I use my cellphone paggabi, hindi na ako makakatulog. Pero sometimes, I fall, I fall asleep naman. And that's all. Thank you for listening.